We live in a world where noise dominates, where men confuse talking with authority and chatter with influence. Yet this endless babble weakens them. Today we solve this problem. How can silence, one simple habit, make you the most powerful person in any room? In courts, in councils, in chambers of power, it is never the loudest voice that rules the room. The most powerful man is often the quietest. His silence sharper than swords, his restraint stronger than armies. In every gathering of men, from the bustling marketplace to the opulent halls of princes, there exists a force far more formidable than the loudest declarations or the grandest displays of wealth. This force is silence. To speak less is not merely to refrain from utterance, but to command attention without effort, to bend the will of others without the use of overt force. Consider how often the chattering masses betray themselves through words, revealing fears, desires, and weaknesses that would otherwise remain hidden. The man who speaks sparingly, who weighs each syllable with care, becomes a vessel of authority, his presence magnified by the restraint he imposes upon himself. Observe a room filled with those eager to assert their dominance. They vie for attention, each voice louder than the last, each claim more insistent. Yet the one who remains silent holds a subtle supremacy. The others, caught in their own need to be heard, reveal their strategies, their alliances, and their uncertainties. Every whispered doubt, every boastful declaration, every misstep in expression becomes fuel for the observant silent man. His quietude allows him to absorb the currents of conversation, to read intentions, and to discern the true character of those around him. In silence lies a mirror of human nature. While others speak to impress, he observes to understand. Silence functions as a shield and a sword. It protects the silent man from exposing his thoughts, his plans, and his vulnerabilities. The world often punishes the careless speaker, for words once released can never be retracted. The silent man, however, moves through conversations untouched, untangled by the snares of hasty declarations. At the same time, his silence cuts through the bravado and pretension of others. They become unguarded, their ambitions and insecurities laid bare. In this space, power is quietly consolidated. The man who speaks less becomes the unseen hand that guides the dialogue, shaping outcomes without ever appearing to intervene. Consider the psychology at play. Human beings are naturally drawn to the unknown. When a person remains silent, withholding comment or opinion, he cultivates an air of mystery. Others cannot predict his next move, cannot anticipate his judgment. This uncertainty inspires both curiosity and caution. Those who speak freely often lose control of perception. Their character becomes transparent, their influence diluted. The silent man, by contrast, harnesses uncertainty as a tool, making each word he eventually utters a declaration of authority. The room bends toward him not because he commands it loudly, but because he commands it through absence, through restraint, through an understanding of the power that silence affords. The practice of speaking less is not passive, it is active, deliberate, and strategic. The silent man listens with intent, absorbs every nuance of conversation, and notes the hierarchy, alliances, and subtle rivalries that others attempt to conceal. Each laugh, each sigh, each hesitation becomes data to be collected, each revelation a piece of the larger puzzle of human interaction. In this way, silence is the medium through which knowledge is accumulated, and knowledge, as Machiavelli insists, is the foundation of power. While others expend their strength on words, the silent man conserves his, deploying it only when it will have maximum effect. In moments of confrontation, silence becomes a weapon. A well-timed pause can unsettle even the most confident opponent. When one refuses to respond immediately, the pressure falls upon the speaker, compelling them to justify, to explain, to overexpose themselves. The silent man allows the tension to rise, watching as the other unravels, their composure slipping as the weight of expectation falls upon them. Through such restraint, he demonstrates control over both the situation and the minds of those involved. Power is rarely announced, it is insinuated most effectively through the deliberate absence of speech. Furthermore, silence commands respect, because it implies mastery. In a world where many confuse volume with authority, restraint signals intelligence, patience, and self-possession. Those who speak too readily are often judged by their words alone, their character reduced to the content of their speech. The silent man, however, invites speculation, admiration, and even fear. He becomes a figure of influence precisely because he does not rush to fill the void with empty noise. Others, eager to understand him, invest their attention, their energy, and their respect into his presence, while he expends none in vain. It is essential to recognize that the power of silence is not in mere avoidance of speech, but in the mastery of when and how to speak. Silence is preparation, observation, and calculation made manifest. It allows the silent man to act with precision when the moment demands it, his words striking with the force of inevitability rather than the chaos of verbosity. In every room, in every council, in every gathering of men, the one who understands this principle wields a subtle, unstoppable authority. Silence is power because it is the gateway to understanding, the weapon of strategy, and the instrument of respect. The one who speaks little listens much, knows more, and influences beyond the reach of ordinary speech. In cultivating this habit, a man does not merely participate in a room, he commands it, not through dominance, but through the quiet force of observation, patience, and restraint. Authority is rarely given, it is sensed, intuited, and often feared. Among men, the loud, the eager, and the overly familiar are quickly understood, their motives transparent, their intentions predictable. The man who cultivates mystery, however, operates in a different realm. He is a figure who moves unseen, whose mind is a closed fortress, whose actions hint at vast knowledge and intricate plans. Mystery is not mere secrecy. It is a deliberate construction of aura, a careful balance between presence and absence, disclosure and concealment. When others cannot fully comprehend a person, they instinctively assign him power. For the unknown is both alluring and intimidating. Consider the effect of entering a room where everyone speaks freely, exposing every thought, every fear, every desire. The crowd may dominate the conversation, but none of them inspire awe. Contrast this with the presence of a man who says little yet observes all, who listens and measures, who allows the currents of interaction to unfold while remaining impervious. Curiosity grows around him like a silent fog. Those who attempt to understand him find only fragments, glimpses, and hints. The mind instinctively fills the gaps, projecting qualities, intentions, and talents far beyond what may be true. In this space, authority emerges naturally, not through coercion, but through the compelling allure of the unknown. Mystery has the power to control perception. Men are prone to fear what they do not understand, to defer to what they cannot predict. When a man surrounds himself with an air of enigma, he commands attention and careful consideration. Others speak with caution, anticipating hidden motives and unspoken judgments. Every glance, every movement, every measured word becomes a part of a calculated performance, an unspoken language that communicates power without need for volume. The silent observer, the patient strategist, becomes a figure whose authority is felt long before it is acknowledged, and whose presence bends the behavior of others effortlessly. The construction of mystery demands discipline. It is not achieved by mere withdrawal or avoidance, but through conscious control over what is revealed and what is concealed. The man who embraces mystery does not react impulsively. He allows questions to linger, invitations to remain open, and intentions to remain ambiguous. By doing so, he shifts the focus from himself to others, subtly compelling them to reveal their character, their weaknesses, and their strategies. Every attempt to pry information from him only reinforces his authority, for in the eyes of those who seek understanding, he is untouchable, enigmatic, and ultimately superior. Mystery also magnifies the impact of action. When one who is largely unseen and little understood finally acts, the result resonates far beyond the act itself. Decisions carry weight precisely because they are unexpected. Words resonate because they are rare, and interventions command obedience because they are measured. The unknown amplifies significance. When a man shrouded in mystery speaks or acts, the room responds with a gravity reserved for those whose power seems innate, unavoidable, and absolute. Every subtle gesture, every carefully chosen word, every moment of silence contributes to the image of authority. Psychologically, mystery exploits the human tendency to idealize what cannot be fully grasped. Men fear uncertainty yet are fascinated by it. They seek to understand the enigmatic figure, to penetrate the veil, yet find only layers upon layers. In this process, they become unwitting admirers, submitting to influence without realizing it. The aura of mystery transforms ordinary interactions into a stage, where the man who conceals becomes the center, not through assertion, but through the subtle art of suggestion. Curiosity becomes a tool of dominance, and respect, born from uncertainty, becomes the armor of authority. In strategic situations, mystery offers flexibility. The man who is fully understood is predictable, and predictability is a vulnerability. The one whose mind is a labyrinth of hidden intentions remains adaptable, capable of navigating shifting circumstances with discretion. Allies and opponents alike hesitate, uncertain whether his choices are guided by reason, strategy, or intuition. This hesitation becomes leverage. Every pause, every ambiguous gesture, every choice to reveal only partial truths reinforces the perception that the man is in control, always 3 steps ahead, never to be underestimated. Mystery is intertwined with restraint and observation. The silent, enigmatic man does not merely withhold words. He listens, analyzes, and measures. He watches the dynamics of the room, the interplay of ambitions, rivalries, and alliances, absorbing knowledge that others squander in idle chatter. By remaining partially unknowable, he commands not only respect but attention, focus, and energy. Men expend themselves trying to decode him, while he expends none in vain. He becomes a pivot around which the room revolves, a subtle but undeniable center of influence. The cultivation of mystery requires patience, subtlety, and self-discipline. It is the deliberate management of perception, the creation of an aura that compels attention, admiration, and sometimes fear. It is the understanding that power does not lie in revealing everything one knows, but in letting the unknown carry weight. Men, faced with what they cannot fully grasp, instinctively defer, admire, and sometimes even obey. Mystery, carefully maintained, is the invisible hand that guides outcomes, shapes decisions, and establishes authority in a world where mere words are often insufficient. In any gathering of men, the majority are consumed by the need to respond. Words fly like arrows, emotions flare, and men rush to assert themselves, to claim dominance through speech or gesture. Yet the man who observes before he reacts operates from a higher plane. Observation is not passive, it is an active, deliberate exercise of power. To watch, to listen, to measure without immediate interference, is to place oneself at the center of control, even while appearing to remain at the periphery. Every glance, every subtle shift in posture, every inflection in voice is information to be gathered and wielded. Men reveal themselves in countless ways. Their words, though often carefully chosen, betray intentions, desires, and insecurities when scrutinized attentively. Their body language, unguarded in moments of comfort or tension, exposes truth that their lips attempt to conceal. A twitch of the hand, a pause in speech, the slight narrowing of the eyes. These details, fleeting and overlooked by most, are treasures to the observant. The man who reacts without first observing sacrifices this wealth of knowledge. He becomes entangled in the moment, subject to the whims of emotion and impulse, while the silent watcher collects insight, understanding, and advantage. Observation grants foresight. By attentively monitoring the interplay of individuals and events, the observer begins to predict outcomes, anticipate actions, and recognize patterns invisible to the untrained eye. When others act impulsively, guided by passion or ego, the observant man remains steady, his responses calculated, his words precise, his decisions deliberate. He understands that haste is a trap, that overreaction reveals weakness, and that patience in gathering information is the foundation of authority. Every word spoken by another is a thread to be followed, every gesture a clue to a hidden motive, every conflict an opportunity to map the landscape of power. The act of observation also cultivates detachment. Men who react immediately are often consumed by emotion, anger, pride, fear, or desire, clouding their judgment and exposing vulnerabilities. The observer, by contrast, remains composed, viewing interactions as a strategist surveys a battlefield. This detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. By resisting the instinct to respond at once, the man gains control over both his own mind and the environment around him. Others may believe themselves to be shaping the conversation, yet it is the silent watcher who directs the flow of influence, steering outcomes while appearing to participate minimally. Observation magnifies power because it provides leverage. Information is authority, and knowledge gathered through careful attention allows one to act decisively when the moment is right. Every hesitation, every subtle cue, every misstep by another becomes a tool. To observe is to hold advantage. To act without observation is to gamble. The observant man recognizes that words spoken in haste are often regretted. Promises made too quickly are broken, and displays of emotion can be exploited. By remaining still and attentive, he positions himself to intervene with precision, timing each move to maximum effect, ensuring that every action carries weight and consequence. In social dynamics, observation over reaction builds influence. Those who speak impulsively may dominate the immediate conversation, but the one who watches and waits ultimately shapes the narrative. By listening and discerning motives, alliances, and vulnerabilities, the observant man understands the structure of power. In any room, he recognizes who fears whom, who envies whom, and who aspires to what. Each observation is a piece of the puzzle, each subtle revelation a key to influence. While others expend energy in words and gestures, he invests in knowledge, and in knowledge lies the quiet, unassailable authority that others mistake for charisma or instinct. Observation also teaches restraint. The man who reacts without study is often drawn into conflict unnecessarily, his reputation diminished by impulsive behavior. The observant man understands that silence, careful listening, and measured action are far more persuasive than rash words or gestures. By restraining the urge to respond, he forces others to reveal more than they intend, to over-explain, and to commit themselves. The tension created by his inaction becomes a tool of subtle coercion. Others speak, and in speaking, they provide the observant man with both insight and power. This principle extends beyond words into behavior and strategy. Actions, decisions, and alliances must be calculated, informed by the patterns observed in others. The observant man moves deliberately, timing his interventions with care, ensuring that every gesture, every contribution, every command resonates with authority. Observation allows him to adapt to shifting circumstances, to anticipate obstacles, and to exploit weaknesses unnoticed by the impulsive. It transforms the room into a living map of influence, where the observer navigates confidently while others stumble blindly. Observation over reaction is the mark of mastery. It is the foundation upon which strategy is built, the lens through which human nature is understood, and the tool through which influence is exercised. By resisting the temptation to respond immediately, by absorbing, analyzing, and measuring the environment, the observant man turns apparent passivity into dominance. The room bends subtly around him. Decisions are influenced without visible force, and power is exercised not through volume or aggression, but through the quiet supremacy of understanding. In the art of influence, words are weapons, and to wield them effectively requires precision, timing, and deliberate restraint. The man who speaks without thought may be heard, but he is rarely respected or feared. He becomes a participant in the noise, indistinguishable from the crowd, his authority diluted by the abundance of empty utterances. Strategic speech, by contrast, is the discipline of speaking with purpose, of choosing moments and words that carry weight beyond their immediate meaning. Each sentence is a tool, each phrase a calculated instrument of power, designed to command attention and shape perception. Every conversation is a battlefield, and strategic speech is the sword of the master. The man who has mastered silence and observation possesses the advantage of knowledge. He understands the personalities, fears, ambitions, and desires of those around him. When he finally speaks, it is not to compete with noise, but to assert dominance. His words are fewer, yet each carries significance. They are measured, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. While others expend energy in relentless chatter, he conserves strength, choosing the precise moment to intervene, ensuring that the impact of his speech is magnified. Strategic speech begins with restraint. Speaking too often diminishes authority, because predictability undermines intrigue. The crowd comes to expect response after response, and the abundance of words erodes influence. By limiting speech, the strategic speaker creates anticipation and tension. Each utterance becomes a rare commodity, commanding attention simply because it is not constant. People listen more carefully, weigh his words more seriously, and often interpret them as carrying meaning far beyond what is explicitly stated. In this way, the deliberate choice to speak less transforms ordinary conversation into a platform for power. The timing of speech is equally crucial. Words spoken too soon may reveal plans, intentions, or vulnerabilities, while words spoken too late may miss the opportunity to shape outcomes. Strategic speech requires patience, the ability to wait for the precise moment when intervention will yield maximum effect. It is the art of understanding context, reading the room, and assessing the emotional and intellectual climate before committing to words. The man who masters this skill becomes a conductor of influence, orchestrating reactions and guiding decisions without needing to dominate every exchange. Content is paramount in strategic speech. Each word must be intentional, each phrase crafted to achieve a specific purpose. Words can persuade, intimidate, inspire, or manipulate, and the master understands the subtle nuances of language. He chooses words that convey authority, instill confidence, and command respect. Ambiguity may be used as a tool, creating intrigue and uncertainty that enhances power. Precision ensures that each statement is memorable, resonant, and capable of shaping perceptions long after it is spoken. Strategic speech transforms dialogue into a medium of control, where influence is exercised not through volume, but through intent. Strategic speech also relies on the accumulation of knowledge through observation. By listening more than speaking, the master gathers insight into the weaknesses, desires, and fears of others. He understands when to challenge, when to affirm, and when to remain silent. The impact of words is amplified when they address the unspoken truths of a situation, when they reveal understanding that others have failed to grasp. In this way, strategic speech is inseparable from the habits of silence and observation, forming a triad of influence that ensures the speaker's dominance in any room. Persuasion is a key element of strategic speech. The man who speaks with intent is capable of guiding thought, shaping opinion, and altering behavior. By framing ideas carefully, appealing to emotion or logic as needed, and deploying words at precise moments, he becomes the unseen architect of outcomes. Others may believe they are making decisions independently, yet their choices have been subtly influenced by the strategic deployment of language. Speech becomes an instrument of control, wielded not through force, but through the power of insight, timing, and skill. Authority is reinforced when strategic speech is combined with silence. A well-timed statement delivered after a period of restraint carries far more weight than the constant barrage of noise. People are drawn to the one who speaks rarely but decisively, whose words cut through confusion and command clarity. The impact of speech is not in the quantity, but in the significance, and the strategic speaker ensures that each utterance resonates with intention, guiding perceptions and shaping reality according to his design. Strategic speech also demands self-awareness. The speaker must understand his own tendencies, recognizing when pride, anger, or impatience threatens to dilute his authority. By controlling these impulses and adhering to principles of restraint, observation, and timing, he ensures that his speech remains a weapon rather than a liability. The ability to measure impact, anticipate reactions, and adjust delivery is what separates the master from the ordinary participant in conversation. Ultimately, strategic speech transforms communication into power. It is the culmination of silence, observation, and timing, a disciplined practice that allows influence to be exerted without overt force. Words become precise instruments, each one designed to command attention, shape perception, and guide outcomes. In mastering this habit, the man ensures that he is not merely heard, but respected, not merely noticed, but followed, not merely present, but dominant in every room he enters. Power is not born from noise, from haste, or from the endless chatter of those who seek attention. True authority arises from mastery over oneself and mastery over perception. Silence, when practiced deliberately, allows one to observe, to gather knowledge, and to understand the hidden currents of human behavior. Mystery creates influence, for men instinctively respect what they cannot fully grasp, and curiosity turns into deference, admiration, and fear. Observation over reaction ensures that every move is informed, every decision calculated, and every interaction an opportunity to assert control. Strategic speech transforms words into instruments of power, precise, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. By embracing these principles, a man becomes more than a participant in the room. He becomes its pivot, its center of gravity, the silent force around which events align. Others may speak, plot, and act, but he, through restraint, awareness, and intention, guides the flow of outcomes without appearing to intervene. Power is not demonstrated through volume or haste. It is exercised quietly, invisibly, and decisively. The habits of silence, mystery, observation, and strategic speech are not merely tactics. They are a code for those who seek to dominate, to influence, and to command respect in every sphere of life. In the end, the man who masters these arts does not merely survive in the presence of others, he controls it. Every glance, every pause, every measured word becomes a testament to authority. He is the unseen hand, the quiet observer, the master strategist, and the decisive speaker. In any room, in any council, in any gathering of men, power will follow him, not because he demands it, but because he earns it through the invisible strength of his silence, the enigma of his presence, and the precision of his words.